Welcome to another episode of the Biker PM. I'm your host, Anthony Pavlich. Today I have a special edition. I put together some great advice from previous guests. And if you haven't heard their full episode, make sure you go back and listen. You can find their episodes on any of your favorite podcast services. To start out, we have Kate Erickson, Chris Kaiser, and Ben Taylor, all talking about just starting, just doing, not looking for that perfect product, not looking for that ideal niche, because everything can be changed and modified as you go. So go ahead and listen to what they have to say.
Take action over overthinking it, not knowing if it's going to work, not knowing if it's for the right person, not knowing if it's the right product, not knowing if you're in the right niche. There are so many low-hanging excuses that I use to not move forward. And the one thing above everything else that's going to get you to where you want to go faster is you taking action. So it doesn't matter if it's not perfect. It doesn't matter if it ends up being for the wrong person. None of that matters. What matters is that you're learning in the process. And the best learning you can have is real-time feedback and actual experience in doing something that will get you to where you want to go faster. So take action.
My primary piece of advice is always just go do it. Don't overthink it. Don't sit in your garage trying to perfect something. Build an MVP, a minimum viable product. Maybe like a website is enough. You know, it takes you a week, or you hire a freelancer in some country where labor is not so expensive. It costs you a few $100, and then you try. You send the website to a few friends, you publish it on social media, and then you get real-life feedback on what's actually happening. Even if you want to sell a product, for example, you could ask people, hey, sign up for the product, and once we ship it, you get 30% discount or something like that. You know, and see if people actually sign up. If nobody signs up, maybe something's wrong with your product, but try it. And try it with the public. Don't just talk about it and have theories about stuff, but actually get real world feedback and improve from there.
I could probably give a one-word piece of advice, which would be start. I hear so many people sort of churning ideas over, and then you see them a year later and they're still churning the idea over and saying, oh, one day I really ought to do that. And I think, yeah, and while you've been talking about it, some people have actually got on with it. And I think there are so many businesses you can start for so little money nowadays, just spinning up some web hosting, even hiring freelancers to do stuff that you can't do yourself. And I do have a private Facebook group for homeworkingclub.com, and we were discussing this some months ago and talking about the psychology of it. And is it that people are as much frightened of success as they are of failure? And I think, especially we're talking now during sort of a big lockdown, if you're going to start something, now is the perfect time to do it. And I think that would be my number one piece of advice, is that you have to start, because you don't want to be looking back in 5 years and being the one who didn't start and watching the people who did.
Do you feel overwhelmed, overstimulated, and overworked? There's so much that you need to do, but you don't know what the best way to do it is? And you're not sure where all your time goes each week? Jump on over to my website, pavproconsulting.com. You can download my free PDF, the 5 proven strategies to steal back lost time and money in your business. And while you're there, you can book a free process discovery session. pavproconsulting.com. Move forward with confidence, focus, and productivity. Now we have Marty Fahncke. Marty talks about not giving up and gives a great story about a person who he knew that did not give up. Probably should have a couple times, but he didn't. And then you'll hear how that turned out.
It's cliche, but I'm going to say it, and then I'm going to tell you a really quick story of why I'm saying it. And the cliche is never give up. I see a lot of entrepreneurs who give up right before they're about to be successful, and it's really a shame. And I'll tell one story, and this is drawing back from my days in the infomercial business. But there was a guy I used to go to. There was a sporting goods fitness and sporting goods show called the Super Show. It was the world's largest sporting goods show. This is back in the 90s. And I would see this guy, and he had this duct taped PVC pipe prototype of his product. And he was going around pitching it, trying to get somebody to take it on. And I saw him, and he was a great guy, and I would talk to him, but it just wasn't going to work for the company I was working with at the time. And I'd see him hauling this thing around, talking to companies. Nothing happened. The next year, I saw him back again, and he ran around. And he had improved the quality of his duct tape and improved the quality of his PVC pipe, and it was still a prototype, and it was still a dream he had. And he brought it around, and he brought it to my company, and we were still not interested. 3 years in a row, I saw him. 3 years in a row, I was, just like I said, he's a nice guy. So I engaged and talked to him, never did business. 2 more years after that, he finally lands a deal, and he landed a deal with probably the premier producer of infomercials in the world at that time. This is a guy who had done $1 billion in the last 2 years, and he got a deal. They spent $500,000 creating an infomercial. They spent another $500,000 finishing the prototype and creating the product. They put it on TV, and it bombs miserably. So now the guy's 5 years into this deal, $1 million in, and he's got nothing to show for it. He comes back to that same conference, and he's like, now it's not a prototype, it's real, and I believe in it. And he does a deal with a friend of mine, and I had a friend at that time who was a design engineer, and he looked at it and he says, I know what the problem is. And he changed a couple of elements about the product, which helped us change a couple of elements about how we marketed the product. And it did $200 million in sales in year 6 and made that guy a multimillionaire. He should have given up on year 2. He should have given up on he certainly should have given up on year 5, but he never gave up. And now he is sitting pretty for the rest of his life. So don't give up.
Finally, we have Najeeb, Kahn, and Brandon White. Both are going to talk to you about, instead of trying to be an entrepreneur and create something new, there are a lot of solutions people are looking for. Find something you're good at, build that solution, and become successful.
It's going back to understanding what problem are you solving. Don't come up with the idea. Don't come up with this brand new invention, like trying to understand what problem are you solving. People are always going to have problems, and the problems are going to change. As you try and figure out what are the problems, then you can kind of figure out, okay, here is my solution for it. So if someone is messy, or if someone's organization is messy, you can implement PM strategies to help improve their processes, right? That is a problem you're solving. So I think when you start off with what problem am I solving, that is the first thing you want to be aware of when you're starting a business.
If people are listening to your show and wanting to become an entrepreneur, what my advice would be is don't try to set out and become an entrepreneur. Just set out to solve a problem. And then if the problem's big enough and you solve it, really well, people will pay you money for that. And once they do that, you've by default become an entrepreneur.
Thanks for joining me for another episode of the Biker PM. I hope you liked this summary episode. Stay tuned. I have another advice episode dropping soon. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment. I'd love to hear what you think. And remember, if you're an entrepreneur that wants to be with like-minded individuals and improving their project management skills, join the Biker PM Facebook group. Until next time.